Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us again on the Washoe County Republican podcast. Today is our second episode in a series that we like to call Meet Your Candidate. Last week we had a great time getting to know and getting reintroduced to Jean Herman, who is running for county commissioner. That was a lot of fun. And this week we have the pleasure of presenting Reno's mayoral candidate, Mr. George Eddie Lorton, who is with us right now. So, before we begin the interview questions, I just want to take a moment to let the audience get to know Eddie as a person, as a resident of Reno, and so we can kind of just get to know him a little bit. So, Mr. George Eddie Lorton, why don't you share with us what it is that you like about living here and a little bit just about you personally?
Well, I was born in Dayton, Ohio. We moved here when I was 6 months old. So I've been here my whole life. I'm about 60 and a half, so I've been here over 60 years now. So I love this city. I went to school here. We lived in Reno and Sparks, have a lot of friends. I watched this city change so much, and so I love it, and that's what got me into politics, but we can dig into that later. But, you know, I love what everything Reno has to offer. You know, I've had cars here, friends here. I love the climate. I love the Four Seasons. I love snow skiing. I fish out at Pyramid, the Truckee River. We always take our motorhome out, go to the lakes, you water ski. So I'm an avid sportsman and stuff. And I just love what Reno is, what it has to offer. I like the little small town hospitality side of it, but it is getting bigger, unfortunately. But it's how we manage it is what's going to keep Reno Reno. I like, you know, being able to go out and shoot my gun and target practice in places. And so I love Reno for what it is.
Yes.
And I don't like a lot of the change because I'm old school. So I love it, and I love my friends. I would never move anywhere else. So I love Reno very much.
Got it. Yes, absolutely. There's so much that is offered here, so that's fantastic. So you're one of us. You've been here a while,
I have.
And you love this town, and you're here to support this town and its residents. That's why you're running. So, awesome. Now, kind of going over to the campaign side of things. As I was looking into Eddie's campaign website, it's very content rich, which, you know, for me as a person that wants to be an informed voter, and I want all of us to be informed voters, please visit eddielorton.com because it's content rich, it's very specific, and has a lot of detail about George Eddie. Can you tell me a little bit about what I need to call you?
George Eddie Lorton. Well, there was a law change. I've always gone by Eddie Lorton my whole life. The only time I had to sign George E. Lorton is, you know, when you're buying stuff or legal issues or papers, you have to sign it George E. Lorton. Well, there was a law change a couple years ago because there was someone that ran that used his nickname, and his name was Chip, and I won't say his last name, but he ran, and he was doing that to hide his identity. So there was a law change where you have to use your full name, so people can Google me all they want or any other candidate and find out exactly who they are. So with that law change, now all of a sudden, I have to be known as George Eddie Lorton because that's my name.
All right, so when we go to the ballots, we want to remember George Eddie Lorton, but the website is eddielorton.com.
And as a matter of fact, under the mayor's race, I'll be the first one listed on the ballot as Reno mayor.
Easy. It's meant to be, everybody.
It is. I'm ready.
Okay, so on that website, you have categories for your platform that, and one of them is fiscal responsibility, and another is caring for Reno residents.
Yes.
And so I would like you to kind of, respective to those two categories, can you share with us a little bit more about why you want to be a mayor?
Well, I want to be the mayor because I ended up, and you know why my website has lots of substance? Because I think we've given youthful enthusiasm a chance. Now it's time for strong leadership. Instead of scatterbrained ideas like the shotgun effect, we need substance. I have from small to large business. I had to do this because I felt that I needed to save our community. I didn't ever want to run for office. You know, it's just something that you have to do because I have a saying, if you want something done right, do it yourself. And if you can't beat them, join them, beat them. So we came across this through time, and I know the city better than all of them put together. I had to go to fight this council before with my attorneys because they're so corrupt and do so many seedy things that you have to actually go to council meetings and you elect these people to represent citizens. And then it's a sad day when they're lining their pockets and going against citizens. And we have a lot to fix in this community. So then that's when I rolled up my sleeves and said, someone has to do something. We can't be in kindergarten anymore. We have to move on with our city, where I could be a 12-year mayor. And I'm young enough to do so and bring stability to our community. There's a lot to fix.
There is a lot to fix. And I love how you just went right into the heart of the matter, right at the top of this podcast, speaking to corruption in Nevada and Reno. And, you know, many of us who are in the know, who are paying attention, or we go to these meetings that Eddie just referenced, such as the city council meeting, the library board meetings, the school board meetings,
commission meetings,
the county commissioner meetings. I just want to encourage everybody to attend those. And if you go to the washogop.org website, there is a calendar on there, and you can see where are they at, what is the day, what is the time. And honestly, everyone, we need to really get involved to see the corruption that's going on throughout Reno.
I would like to mention a little bit more about the fiscal responsibility.
Yes.
Like, for instance, a lot of people don't know it because, you know, they're leading their lives.
They're
so
busy.
They don't want to go to council meetings and learn the things I did. I have institutional knowledge it took years to get because I had to go to council meetings. So a lot of people aren't aware. We subsidize the ballpark $1 million a year, and we don't have enough police on the streets. Why? He's a billionaire, and anytime we can get out of it. Herb Simon owns the ballpark. He owns Meadowood Mall and 356 malls. We subsidize them $1 million a year. They gave Reno Land Development over here at the Park Lane Mall project, $3.6 million. It's Michael Milka that owned Reno Land Development. He's a billionaire junk bond salesman at the lake, and we gave them $3.6 billion because of who the lobbyist was and subsidized them out of our sewer fund, and your sewer bill goes up 10% a year. And they ended up another developer subsidy too, and in the end they're going to make the profit. That's a private business. No one subsidized my business. I don't believe in giving them subsidies either. Where this city sold $55 million in city bonds for the Stonegate project for their infrastructure and sewer. So to guarantee a low interest rate loan, if they go broke, we're on the hook, but they're going to make the money. So they have been terrible about the money.
Exactly. So this is corruption. So you're just defining it because you've been involved by going to the meetings, and you have several businesses, and so that's what's prompted you to go to those. And then you see how the lobbyist money benefits the wealthy at the top, and who is on the hook, like you're saying? Us, the taxpayer. We're paying for things, and then we get beaten over the head. You know, we give our taxes, and yet our taxes kind of go against us.
Well,
our money goes against us.
And they come back for more. All the increases always lies on the backs of citizens. Never does the developer pay their fair share, and all their little special interest groups and friends, they always go back to the citizens. So that's some of the terrible part of why I'm getting involved. So there's so much corruption from, you know, they do things nonstop like this RSCVA. I spoke at that commission earlier, and that's the, you know, the visitors authority to try to bring people to town.
Yes.
Do you know they kind of did a political ploy for Hillary this go round? We had a mayor's convention here. We have homeless and housing issues.
Yes, we do.
And she did a mayor's convention and used the RSCVA as a tool. So they budgeted $1 million to bring the mayors here. No one come here to see a mayor's convention. They budgeted $1 million, but ended up spending under $200,000 to have a mayor's convention here, so Hillary Schieve could have a press release and get in the paper. So we wasted money. They used the RSCVA for a tool.
And
but
I'm
it's
sorry,
nonstop.
let me interrupt you there for a minute, Mr. Eddie. What does the RSCVA stand for?
Well, that's a long one and a good one.
Right?
They
Come
keep
again?
the C silent. It's for the visitors authority is what it is.
Okay. All right.
So they bring people to town for events, but they're supposed to spend that money on good events and not be used for a political tool. But I get them at every turn. They even use the City of Reno website for a tool for Hillary and her election as well. So it's just so corrupt at every turn. You get off the plane at the airport, there's her face everywhere. She disappeared for 2 years when we had riots and told told the police to stand down. They kicked the windows in. 35 officers got hurt. We don't hear a word from her during the pandemic as they're shutting her businesses down and we're having riots. Comes out 2 years later, she's running against term limits and I'm running for mayor. Are you kidding me?
Right.
Our town deserves better than that.
It does. And I mean, as you listen to Eddie and watch on the podcast, if you're watching, you can see that he is seasoned. He is an insider in terms of all the history and the knowledge that he has. And this would be a different direction than Hillary, right? Obviously. So if the status quo is something that you're pleased with, it's probably because you just don't know the extent of the corruption that's going on. And so you're driving to work and living your life and raising your family and you're super busy. And so you don't know the ins and outs of how small business is being squeezed out. We don't have enough police. Those things, the homeless issues, that's all from a lack of attention and correct direction from the mayor. The mayor greatly influences that. In fact, speaking of that, can you just break down a teeny bit as to what are the roles of the mayor?
Okay. Well, I made that clear in 2014 when I went to the Supreme Court. We set case law for term limits, which he's running against right now. It's just sad.
Incredible.
No one enforces the law, and I have to take him to court again to enforce the law. It's
That's
a sad
ridiculous.
day.
Ridiculous.
So now the mayor's only job is the city's only job, and they never knew it until I define it. Okay, because I study this stuff. The city, their job is police, fire, and public works. That's it. Not global warming, not micromobility with scooters, all these things that they try to do, blowing money on art pieces from their friends. Mm-hmm. They're super fiscally irresponsible.
Mm-hmm.
Where I'd be fiscally responsible. We'll have enough police.
Yes.
Do you know our crime rate went up 100% on murder, 50% on rape, and now the homeless issue is multiplied by 10 under her watch. No one's doing nothing. No one's arresting them. They're laying around in business doorways, and then they're peeing and pooping in the river, and laying in the parks. Someone has to do something. I'm going to bring back public safety to our town. I'll never tell our police to stand down during a riot where our officers get hurt and the windows get kicked in. Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to deal with this homeless issue that's overcame our town, and I'm not going to be in the pocket of developers because she has been lining her pockets, being in the pocket of out-of-state and local developers while subsidizing them, and her and her lobbyist friend Jessica Sferraz are making a fortune off this town, and it's time someone does something. So that's why I'm running.
Exactly. And so you get to a place where you see just the extent of, I mean, I can personally say that I live near a police station, and before I got here at 10 a.m. this morning, I had heard 3 different sirens, 3 different trips of the police going out. So that was between 5 when I woke up and about 9 when I left to come here. And when I first moved to that location, I never heard the police. Maybe once a month, once every 6 weeks I might hear. Now it's 3 to 4 times a day. Sometimes it's 7 times a day if I'm working from home. So I, from personal experience, can say, yeah, I definitely feel less safe. I would definitely like to see our resources go to a larger police force rather than a piece of art in the quad downtown. I mean, we all appreciate art, but the point is, let's look at our priorities. Why don't we really care about our residents' safety?
Well, I wouldn't subsidize developers. I'd give us plenty of money for police. But the funny part, whenever I run, they try to use what I'm saying and implement it and call it their own, and then they screw up implementing it. I wouldn't be subsidizing billionaires. That'd save us millions. I wouldn't be getting sued right and left. That would save us millions and millions. Like, for instance, we got sued building in a floodplain in Lemon Valley, and then they approved the Daybreak project. What, to get sued again because those developers gave them lots of money for their campaign, where I've worked for people and I won't be in nobody's pocket, and that's a promise. So all these millions getting bled out while fattening their own pocketbooks have destroyed us. So there's so much substance I can get into, but be aware that I'm aware of it. So we'll
and that's, everybody, what we need is a fighter. We need somebody that knows exactly what is going on and is not in the pocket of anybody. We need someone who will not be compromised, who has ideals set in stone, who is driven by a moral compass. That is actually real leadership that people will get behind. We certainly will get behind that kind of leadership.
Well, there's another thing too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the thing is, we have tons of money available. I wrote this city a property disposal program with policies. I found 150 more pieces than the city even knew they owned. I'm a real estate expert. Those were the industrial and commercial. Like I said before, they can be sold off and then pay down the debt. And you know, city-owned properties aren't even on the tax rolls. Instead of coming to you to increase your property taxes, these businesses and buildings would be on the tax rolls. Imagine that.
Right?
Okay?
Because that's what we're looking at. That's
Yeah.
coming down the pike, that your property values have increased and they want to tax you at a higher rate.
Yes, they do. They want to get rid of your 3% tax cap. But now, if we sold off these city-owned properties alone, we'd have lots of money, like the ballroom and the event center that we keep operating or paying for it for the casinos. We can sell them off, put them on the tax rolls, pay down the debt hundreds of millions of dollars, and try to get out of debt, spend it on police, fire, public works, and then the thing is, they put some of these properties in a thing called the redevelopment agency. Super corrupt. Even California quit using that. Through the redevelopment agency, they put certain properties in there because then it doesn't have to go to public bid to sell. Then they give it to their friends for little or nothing, which these council members certainly wouldn't give their properties away for little or nothing. But since they're city properties and taxpayer properties,
Thank you very
they
much.
don't care. And I look
Yeah.
out for your dollar. So they put it in the redevelopment agency, give them away. They gave some to the Jacobs Group, and they sold some of it off, and we gave them to them for free.
For free.
It wasn't supposed to be to make a profit on it, or we'd have sold it to public bid. So I want to get rid of the redevelopment agency, put them all in the city like they're supposed to be, and sell them for market rate or above.
For a profit
Imagine
to fund city services.
Police, fire,
So-
public works, quality of life. Look how they tore down the tennis courts and the swimming pool at Lake Ridge. These are quality of life
Yes, they
issues.
are.
Look how they're tearing down the golf course up there at Lake Ridge also. So I believe, look what they did to these golf courses out there where they did the Southeast Connector. You only have 9 holes instead of 18 now. Look at the golf course over there at Wild Creek now that they put a school in back of there.
Yes.
We need quality of life, which is also the city's job, not fattening and padding our pockets. So
Right,
I know
right.
the matters.
Yes, and and for our listeners, it's a lot to take in. I understand that because Eddie knows a lot and he's putting a lot out there, kind of, rapid fire to us right now and catching us up with a lot of what goes on throughout our area. But we want a new direction. We want less homeless. We want to feel more safe and secure. And he's explaining how he can financially do that without the homeowners being taxed at a higher rate, but just using what we have, the properties that we own. So fiscal responsibility is huge. So I just love that sense that you are a grown-up that understands finance and how to manage things responsibly and not punish the people that go to work every day.
Well, I have from small to large business, so I know what budgets are. I know how to itemize budgets, where this council, their idea of a budget is this. We just had a budget meeting and hearing at the city of Reno, and you know what they did? We're $1 billion in debt, but yet the new city manager that they ended up bringing from Sparts, it's in the developer's pocket. Our city manager always made about $230,000 a year, so you know what they did? They gave him a raise. $200,000 a year. He makes $430,000 off the government dole. Or
Off of your
debt.
dollar, off of my dollar.
So this is unbelievable, where I'll take the budget, but I itemize the budget, and then we'll cut the fat and go from there. That's why this whole council runs against me. All the good old
Yes.
boys, special
Yes.
interest groups, they don't want me in there. Why?
That's right.
Because I don't lie to gain votes, and I represent the citizens, and I'm going to spend their money like my own.
Right. So you can imagine, if you think about corruption, you can imagine how much obstruction and interruption Eddie's campaign faces on the steady, on the weekly, on the daily. So, if you are a regular person that goes to work, professional, blue collar, white collar, whatever, but you earn your money honestly and you want representation for your family's interest, then you want to vote in George Eddie Lorton. That is the different direction.
I want transparency. I'll talk about another little something. Do you know that this city before Hillary, they never did this. They implemented a caucus meeting. Most people, that's why they do these meetings during the day, because most people are working and can't show up.
Exactly.
But get this, so now they have a pre-meeting, it's called a caucus meeting, which is legal because they do the public announcement that you can come to this meeting. Most people can't make 2 a month, let alone 4. They count on that.
Exactly.
So they have the pre-caucus meeting before the meeting. Then they put all their dirty laundry out there at that meeting and decide how they're going to vote, not in the public eye, where the first thing, if I get in there, that caucus meeting's going away and we're going to be transparent. I'm never going to say anything that I can't say in front of the public. So we will get rid of the caucus meeting. We'll have our meeting right in the light of day, in the public eye. And I would suggest too, because we need our votes to make these things be implemented, and that is, but at least I'll be running the meeting, I'll have an advantage to do the right thing for people. To where I'd like to do them in the evenings. More people could show up.
What a concept.
I welcome the public to
What
come
a
to the meetings.
concept, right?
How about that?
It's these public meeting laws that we really need to look at rehauling, because like you say, we the people, the taxpayers, the residents, we're excluded. We're able to come to a piece of it and give public comment, but oftentimes that's scheduled during a typical workday time frame. It's scheduled at 4 or when people are not yet off work.
Well, they're funny because then they'll say, oh, you can Zoom it in. Well, when you're working, hey, boss, could I have a second? I got to get off this cash register and go Zoom in a comment. But I'll tell you something. There's been subjects on this agenda for the city where people have gone in 150 deep and spoke against it. One speaks for it because they already have their plan on what they're doing and their special reason for doing what they're doing.
Correct.
They don't care about the public. 150 people can speak against, one can speak for, and guess what? They ignore the 150 people that took time out of their day and came because they're passionate about it, and they'll vote the other way because that's what their agenda is.
Because
they do not
they
care.
are being funded, they have that set agenda in place, and we the people are in their way. And so we are mistreated, ignored. There's just a level of smugness. I know I've certainly noticed that at the county commissioner meetings and other meetings
City
around
Hall.
town. We're treated very poorly, guys, and this is a candidate that sees that, doesn't agree with that, wants to make things more transparent, because by and large, most people are good, and most of your residents want things that are good for themselves and their families. So they're speaking up out of a core emotional place of safety for my family, things that make financial sense. But when you have government systems that don't want to hear that, that is a massive problem. That is corruption. That has to get addressed.
So now imagine how I've gotten in their way,
Right?
So that's why they dislike me, but that's okay. I got broad shoulders. I'm good at what I do. I know more than all of them put together about this city. I had to get involved to protect my investments, and now I'm doing it to help 250,000 people. Politics is a weird thing. The only way you can help 250,000 people from your town is through politics. So I'm here to serve, represent them, bring substance to the office instead of these teenage little games they're playing.
Who are here to get wealthy off of me and you.
And turn it into a career. I mean, the president does 8 years, and you're only supposed to do 12 years. If she happened to win this time, it'll be 14. I think it should be cut back to 8 years. We the people, by the people, for the people.
Yes.
And government is this. You're supposed to serve and then leave.
And leave.
And leave it a better place than when you first got there. Not turn it into a career,
No.
fatten your pockets,
That's right.
where I don't need a job. I'll more than likely donate my salary against the debt. We're going to fix stuff quick, but if I'd have been mayor the last 8 years, we wouldn't be in this position. But I'm consistent, persistent, and not a quitter, and everybody can agree to that. I care and love this place, so that's why we're here.
Well, you just answered my next question.
Sorry about
because you read my mind.
Yeah.
I was going to ask about, the fact that, what we're saying, to some it might sound controversial, right? To those who want to stay in power and keep everything the way it is, it's controversial. But for those of us who want transparency and we want the people's voice to be heard and we want service for the people, it's such fresh air. And so my question was, what kind of person do you have to be to step into a role where that there's going to be all kinds of groups out there that don't want to play by your new rules? And so what kind of, qualities do you have to have? And you were just kind of touching on it, broad
Well,
shoulders, thick skin,
well,
that focus.
I have a huge heart. Okay, I just became a grandparent this year
Yay!
for the first time.
Fantastic.
I got married to someone I've been with for 14 years that I love very much.
Wonderful.
And I do have a big heart no matter what they say about me, because I'm one getting in the way. So I have
Right.
a big heart. I love this town, and I can take criticism, but you know what I do that they don't do? I listen to everybody, and then you know what I do in the end? I make another seasoned decision that's well informed, because everybody has good thoughts and ideas. Bottom line, you're never going to make 100% of the people happy.
Sure.
But I'm working for the 90 percentile, but I'm not going to make decisions based on 1%ers either. That doesn't support the across the board
Yes.
what people want.
Yes.
So you don't agree with everyone on everything, but I've made a lot of good choices in my life. I've came from the ground up. I've done well in business from large to small. And so that was through my decision-making processes. And yes, we're never going to be 1,000,000% right, but you know the difference between me and them too?
Tell us.
They'll do terrible decisions at times, but then they stick to it because they're the ones that made that decision.
Yeah.
Where, hey, if I made a mistake, let's review it and we'll change that
That's
decision.
right. We can alternate, we can alter course, we can tweak things. If you don't have
Well,
an
that's
agenda,
perfect.
then
Yeah.
you're open. You're open to fixing something. You're not so pride-based that
Yeah.
you cannot be criticized. It's okay to change course. Everybody, that's how we live. We, things happen, we learn from it, we change course.
Yeah.
We grow, and well, that sounds excellent, and I do understand that you might you're currently facing a lot of criticism, and you have run for mayor in the past, and and that didn't work out, and
And you know why?
well, I was gonna say, should we go there, because
Let's do
that's
it.
a whole nother
No,
topic.
and I would love to explain it too.
Okay, go
You
for
know,
it.
I've ran before and I ran again. Let's face it, Reno's not my demographic, but I think it's became it over the last 2 years. What's happened to citizens and their pocketbooks and the way things are, and certain policies in place, we're getting destroyed as a nation.
We are.
Someone has to step up. So I was always a Republican to my detriment in Reno. When really I'm in the middle. I was always an independent. Later when you run, you have to be one or the other. And most of my beliefs are I'm a moderate in the middle. So therefore, you get involved in politics and you have to serve the people.
Yes.
And they do not. So why I ended up deciding to run, and then I'm not a quitter, like I said before, to where I know it's not my demographic, but I'm not in politics to be in my demographic. I could win a lot of Republican races out there. That isn't my goal. My goal is trying to win in the most corrupt government at all. Reno's worse than Sparks is okay, and the county has some issues, but Reno's the worst. So I run where I can make a difference,
Right.
and I care about this place. Do you think I spent like 300 grand in a few elections, and then because don't have to be in people's pockets, I've raised a lot of money too, but I put a lot of my own in. I have skin in the game.
Right,
It's because
right.
I care and love this town, not
Yes.
because I was looking for a race to win like I needed a job like a lot of them do. Like I said
Right,
earlier,
right.
it's funny because sometimes when you're going to run, I've been to 30 years of meetings to protect my investments. And then these people come in and they wake up one morning and decide to run for mayor. Then at election time, you have 20 people running for mayor that never even been to a meeting. So I put the time in and I love this place, and that's why I'm doing it again,
Right.
and I'm hard-headed and don't
Yeah.
quit.
I love it because you can tell a lot by a person's actions, right? We have people, politicians, talking heads that talk all day long about what they might do and this and that and postulate. But actions, that's what a leader does, is they act. And if you have somebody who has invested their own bank account in trying to make sure term limits happen and the law is followed, that is somebody of character. And that's what we want to get back to, because everyone will benefit if you have a person of character at the helm. Your boat is going to even out. The waters are not going to be as rocky. You need character.
Well, I got something for you. You know, like, look at my record. The thing I love that I've ran, because then you can look at my history. Look at her baggage, through her votes, and then look at me. I was right on the last 12 years about everything I said. I said 12 years ago, the county's responsible to place and pay for the shelter. For all social issues, they get the funding. But there were people in pockets, so it ended up in Reno. Sure enough, 12 years later, the county's paying now, but the city of Reno wasted $77 million on a non-city issue that I would have saved you if I'd have been mayor. I was right. Was right on the ADP payroll system. I said it wouldn't work. They used it for a year and a half, quit using it. I was right because there's too many union formulas. They wasted $2.5 million.
Another waste of our money.
I'm right on this property disposal program. I was right on so many means. I made the ballpark pay their taxes. They owed $2.7 million in back taxes. So I took my lawyer to a commission meeting. They were the administrator collecting your tax dollar. And I said, see everyone? They go, Eddie? I said, yes. See everyone in this room? They said, yes. And I said, well, we all have to pay our property taxes.
Yes.
Or after a year and a half, you put our property for sale for a tax lien sale. Yes. And I said, well, how does the ballpark owner not pay in 7 years and he owns us $2.7 million because he was in their pocket? I said, here's my attorney. You have a month to pay or I'm suing you. And the Gazette Journal did an article, mayoral candidate threatens to sue for the ballpark. Guess what? They met my deadline and he paid after not paying in 7 years. And I did this out of my own money with my attorney. And then they didn't do a follow-up story. What do you know? So we've set case
No
law for term
follow-up
limits.
story.
No, we made the ballpark pay their taxes. And then I paid to turn the arch lights blue because I was at a meeting one time and an officer's mom was there. And she asked the old mayor at the time if they could turn the arch lights blue to honor fallen police that got
Yes.
killed in the line of duty, and her son was one of those.
Right.
And the mayor said, no, we can't afford it, and I got goosebumps
And
because
who
my
was that
dad was
mayor?
a cop.
I'm sorry.
I'd rather not mention
Okay,
names.
that's fine.
They passed away, and
Okay.
so.
Yes.
But what I did though is I stood up and raised my hand because I got goosebumps.
Yes.
There was a lady asking, and I said, I'll write the check. They go, Eddie, it could be this much. I go, no problem. So I supported to turn the arch lights blue since 2010 also for our fallen police.
Yes.
So we've done all these things from, the nosebleed section not being on this council. So imagine what we could do if I get elected.
Absolutely. So someone who honors law enforcement, honors the sacrifice of families, that's huge. And we need more of that, in our nation and certainly in our area. So everyone has heard, quite a bit of information today from our mayoral candidate, George Eddie Lorton. And you can back up that information for yourself by visiting his website, eddielorton.com, and just think about the difference in direction. And if you are a person that cares about corruption and you don't want that, and you know the ills that creates, that we get less as a community. When corruption is allowed to thrive and multiply, we get less and less. So I want you to come out and vote for George Eddie Lorton come November 8th or before if you're doing early voting, and please check out his website, and we thank him very much for coming today. Thank you.
Thank you, and I would like to make one final plug.
Okay.
Okay, and that is, my name is Eddie Lorton. On my website is eddielorton.com. But when you go to the ballot, I'm George Eddie Lorton because of the law change, so don't be confused.
Yes.
But you can also donate, you can volunteer, have house parties at your house. But on election day, please vote George Eddie Lorton for Reno Mayor. Go to my website, eddielorton.com. Help in any way you can. Our city's counting on it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.